In this video, I'm going to compare additive and multiplicative relationships. So these can be shown in many forms. They can be written out in some sort of real-world scenario. They can be written in an equation, and they can be written in a table or a graph. So I'll start out with a real-world scenario. So in this one, it's about you and your brother. And if you have a brother like my brother always had to do the most. Okay, so he was always extra. So this situation is that your brother studies 3 more hours than you. Whatever you study, he has to study 3 more hours. So when we write these equations, they're always in the form of y equals. So it always starts with y equals, and then it's always got an x, it's always got an operation, and it's always got a number. So that's the format of the equation. And because this is adding 3, it's 3 more. That's that. So in this, y would be the brother, your brother. X would be you. So however much you studied plus 3 is going to give you what your brother studied. Now we can look at this in a table. So we're always going to have our X and our Y. If you remember from learning about independent and dependent, your X is always independent and your Y is always dependent. So how much your brother studies depends on how much you study. So if you didn't study at all, he wants to study 3 more hours, so he's studying 3 hours. If you study an hour, again, he's studying 3 more, so he studies 4, and so on. So we notice that we're adding 3 each time in that table. And then we can also graph this. So on our x-axis, we've got you. On our y-axis, we've got your brother, because again, you are x and your brother is y. So all we're doing is taking the numbers from the table. So x and y, it's like coordinate graphing. So x comma y, 0 comma 3 is right there. This is when you don't study at all, but your brother studies 3 hours. Then when you study an hour, your brother studies 4 hours. When you study 2, your brother studies 5. Again, these are the same numbers from our table. One thing you'll notice about additive graphs is they never start at the origin. So remember, this is the origin. And this graph doesn't go through the origin because it's an additive graph. And the reason is anytime you add something to 0, it's not 0 anymore. So it's not going to start at 0, comma 0. In this case, we were adding 3. So 0 plus 3 is 3. So those are additive relationships, but we can also look at multiplicative relationships. So I'm still going to use my brother because, you know, sibling rivalry and all. But in this case, your brother studies 3 times as much as you. Now he's really being extra. So in our equation, I told you it always starts with y equals. We always have an x. There's our x. We always have an operation. In this case, you don't see the sign for the operation, but it's multiplication because of them being next to each other. And then we always have a number. Our number here is 3. So this is y equals 3 times x. Okay, and then again, this is your brother. He's y. You are x. So whatever you studied, multiply that by 3, and that's going to give you what your brother studied. Just like additive, we can show these in the form of a table or a graph. So again, x is you, y is your brother. If you didn't study at all, in this case, your brother actually didn't study at all either because 3 times 0 is 0. But if you studied an hour, he studied 3 hours. And if you studied 2 hours, he studied 6 hours. And if you studied 3 hours, he studied 9 hours. So you see that for all these x's, we're multiplying by 3 to get the y values. And just like last time, we can coordinate graph these on an xy axis. So 0 comma 0 is right here at the origin. So unlike additive graphs, multiplicative graphs always start at the origin. So they start at 0 comma 0 because anything times 0 is 0. And then 1 comma 3, 2 comma 6, 3 comma 9. You'll also notice multiplicative graphs get bigger a lot faster. So if we can compare the additive and the multiplicative, think of them as a mountain. This is like maybe like a hill. It is going up, but then over here it's really going up. So multiplicative graphs go up fast, steeper, faster. Okay, I hope that was helpful and you learned something about additive and multiplicative relationships.